안녕하세요. Let's talk about verbs like 먹이다 in the sentence 밥을 먹여요. 자, let's see a sentence here. 뱀이 코끼리를 먹었어요. 뱀 ate 코끼리. 먹었어요's dictionary form is 먹다. 먹다, eat, we call active verb because subject does this action actively. But this sentence, 코끼리가 뱀한테 먹혔어요. That means 코끼리 was eaten by 뱀. 먹혔어요's dictionary form is 먹히다. In this case, the subject undergoes some action by the agent. So we call this kind of verb passive verb라고 합니다. Passive verb. The subject undergoes some action by an agent. We call passive verb. 그런데 look at this image. If you see this image, mom does an action and this action makes baby do some action too, right? We call this kind of verb causative verb라고 합니다. 자, what does it mean? 자, 엄마가 아이를 먹여요. Here, 먹여요. The dictionary form is 먹이답니다. And then 엄마 does this action, but this action also makes or cause this baby, this child does an action. So we call this kind of verb causative verb. Mom feeds the child, mom makes the child or baby eat. We call this kind of verb causative verb. So if I tell you one more time, causative verbs is like verbs. The verb's action makes the object. The object can be a person or a baby, like baby, or person or animal or other items. Do some action. In case of item, do come to a certain state입니다. 자, like passive verbs, causative verbs also, there are some suffixes. By adding a suffix to an active verb becomes a causative verb, like e suffix, he suffix, li suffix. 기 suffix, u suffix, 추 suffix. In this case, adjective. adjectives causative verb form입니다. 그리고 in case the causative verb has u suffix, the form of active verb and causative verb slightly different. Pay attention. 자, 그래서 for example, 자, 저는 밥을 먹어요. 저는 아이한테 밥을 먹여요. 저는 아이한테 밥을 먹여요. Like this, knowing you can learn the causative verb. You can remember the verbs of causative verbs. You can remember the causative verbs. 그런데 how to use those verbs in sentences is also important. Sometimes 저는 아기를 먹여요. 저는 아기를 먹여요. Sometimes 저는 아기한테 밥을 먹여요. 한테. Particle. So a bit different particles are used here. So try to get to know the usages of causative verbs. You know the meaning, but doing usage is also important here. So from the sentences, please remember how to use those causative verbs in sentences. 자, 그런데 I will show you some examples. Wash is 씻다예요, 그렇죠? 근데 make some object do this action, we call causative verb, and 씻다's causative verb is 씻기다예요. I'm gonna give you an example. 엄마가 아이를 씻겨요. Mom washes a child입니다. In this case, 엄마가 아기를 씻겨요. This means 엄마 washes the child. Okay? 그런데 엄마가 아이를 씻게 해요. 그 make form으로. Mom makes the child wash가 되고요. 또는 you can translate this way too. 엄마가 아이를 씻겨줘요. 엄마 washes the child for the child. 어와주어 structure. We also, according to the context, or according to speaker's point, 시켜요, 쉽게 해요, 뭐뭐 하게 해요, 어와줘요 씁니다. 자, 그리고 I want to call your attention. 저는 이 책을 읽어요. I'm reading this book, active verb. 이 책은 많은 사람들에게 읽혀요. This book is read by many people. passive verb죠? passive verb. 그런데 선생님은 학생에게 책을 읽혀요. This means teacher makes students read a book이거든요. 그래서 읽혀요, passive verb, 읽혀요, causative verb, same이죠? The form. Because sometimes when you want to make sure the meaning of a causative verb, rather than 읽혀요, you can use 읽게 해요, like this. 읽게 해요 할 수 있습니다. Makes students read the book. 자, also here. 저는 다리를 봐요. I see. I am looking at a bridge. I'm looking at a bridge. So active verb죠. 그런데 다리가 보여요. Literally it means that a bridge is seen by me가 되죠. Passive verb, the translation is I can see a bridge가 됩니다. 그래서 보이다 passive verb예요. 그런데 저는 엄마한테 남자친구 사진을 보여요. I show my boyfriend's photo to my mom. 보이다. 이거는 what does it mean? I let my mom look at my boyfriend's photo가 되죠. 그래서 보이다. causative verb예요. But if you see 보이다, again, passive verb and causative verb, the form is the same. So you can recognize the function or a meaning based on the context, or you can make the causative verb's sense more clearly by saying that 보게 해요. 또는 엄마한테 사진을 보게 해요. 또는 엄마한테 사진을 보여줘요. Like this. So knowing a causative verb is important, but usages with particles 엄마한테 보게 해, 뭐뭐 하게 해요, 뭐뭐 어와줘요. This type of translation도 있어요. So usages, you have to get to know the usages by looking at many examples. 오케이? 자, 그러면 여기까지. 감사합니다. Of course, you have to memorize the causative verbs. 가자.